Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Myles Garrett wants out, Cooper Kupp wants to stay, Bill Belichick hits the trail, and Brian Windhorst joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with a report in Sports Illustrated that the Golden State Warriors are, quote, very interested in acquiring their old friend Kevin Durant. Durant was on 2 championship teams in Golden State before leaving for Brooklyn and then for Phoenix. Wilbon, would a Kevin Durant reunion give the Warriors what they need?
I don't know, Tony, but it would make a hell of a watch for as long as he's there, particularly these last 35 games and whatever playoff position we presume the Warriors would climb into. Sign me up for that. You know, I've been on this whole let LeBron play with Steph and Draymond. Sign me up for Kevin Durant there, too, even though it would leave the Phoenix Suns, which I actually care about watching, it would leave them just out of luck, it seems to me. But I don't know. They don't become the favorite to win a championship. And I know Kevin Durant is pouring in the basketball. He is scoring at a rate that is Kevin Durant, Hall of Fame, greatest scorers ever. I mean, what's your list? My list, okay, so Jordan and Wilton, Jordan. Kevin Durant is on the short list in terms of just scoring prowess and efficiency, and you put him back there with Draymond Green and Steph Curry. You got something I want to watch. How far do they go? I don't know. Are they a favorite to beat Oklahoma City? I don't think so. Did they pull even with Houston and Memphis? Maybe not. But let me see it. Just let me have a whiff of that.
You and I are not on the same page right now about Kevin Durant now. I think of Kevin Durant now as an itinerant, just going from team to team like a bird landing, on a telephone wire, scoring a lot of points, but not really winning anything. I mean, I don't think he going to the Golden State Warriors, and we agree on this, I don't think it makes Golden State Warriors the champions. I don't. I will say this, I'm sort of amazed that his name has come up as going to the Golden State Warriors. I thought he'd finish his career in Phoenix. I thought you thought that. I thought you thought when they got Bradley Beal there that they were actual contenders, but they're not.
I was seduced.
They're not.
I was wrong.
They're
not.
They are tied for 9th place in the Western Conference. They're 1 game over 500. They have the greatest scorer in the history of the franchise now in Booker, and they got Kevin Durant at 27 a game, shooting 52%. They're 1 game over 500. You know what I'd like to see? I'll take you at your word getting LeBron James there. I'll see LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry all playing together like in the Olympics. But you know what still, Mike?
What's that?
They wouldn't win the NBA title because it's 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
And it's not a 1-game knockout, and they're 40, 36, and 36 as miles on the tires.
But hold on, before we move on, you tune in for Durant, Curry, Draymond one more time. You would?
Sure.
Okay.
Of course.
Just checking.
Sure.
Making sure you got a pulse there now. Just checking.
Let's get back into the big trade between the Mavericks and the Lakers with our great friend ESPN senior NBA writer Brian Windhorst. And I'm sure you're happy where you are right now, Brian. But I remember you in front of the Eiffel Tower last week, and that was a background shot.
That's apt.
Second to none. Let's start with Luka. The Lakers introduced him today to Los Angeles. How is that relationship going on?
Well, it's all a love fest right now, but what I think is interesting is how Rob Pelinka, both today and in his press release earlier this week, really made it clear how they've got to build around Luka, and all of their things are around Luka. That's interesting for 2 reasons. One, for the first time in 20-plus years, an NBA team with LeBron James is not making decisions with LeBron James in mind first, which is what they should do, by the way. That's not controversial, but that's true. The second thing is we do need to pay a little bit of attention to Luka's contract. He only has 1 year left after this year, which means this summer the Lakers are going to offer him, and they hope he will sign an extension. The reason we haven't talked about this is because when he was with the Mavericks, it was just assumed he was going to sign this Supermax. I mean, why wouldn't he? It would have been 5 years and $350 million. And he was asked today whether people are trying to find out why Dallas traded him. He was asked today whether he had ever indicated to the Mavericks that he would not sign that. And he said, absolutely not. And of course, because it's $350. So the Lakers, I'm not really worried about it, and I don't think they should be worried about it either, but they need to have a plan to build out this roster and maybe even make a roster move or two when they come to him, because they can't sign him to the Supermax. They lose the ability to put the extra $100 million in that the Mavericks had. So he is not as incentivized, not just in the signing it at all, but in a number of years. So that is now a thing that is going to be on the Luka platter a little bit going forward.
All right, before we go forward, I'm not ready to move on like everybody else just yet. I want to know if Luka Doncic is angry at the Mavericks. And, I mean, was there something today that revealed his mood, the state of their relationship? Is he pissed? Because it would seem like he can say he's happy to be in LA, Brian, but this stunned him. How does he feel about them?
He betrayed nothing today, but from what I understand, he's seething at them.
Okay.
And their fan base is seething at their team in a way that I've rarely seen before. And, he's playing, the return game to Dallas is in April, like April 9th or something like that. And I don't know many things, and I would never tell. I would always caution somebody who buys an April game late in the season because teams are always sort of maneuvering and giving guys off.
Yeah.
If you could take us to that game, Mr. Doncic will be playing, and I suspect Mr. Doncic will be looking at all Dallas games very, very closely going forward.
April 9, I think it's a Wednesday night. Oh, wait, I looked it up. Guess whose air that's on? Tony thinks the Mavs, and he said this right away. I'm going to give him some credit. He said, wait a minute. All these people saying this is the worst trade in the world. Hold on. The Mavs can contend right now, but even so, in the same breath, and I got on him for this yesterday, he says it's going to cost Nico Harrison his job some point relatively soon, down the line, 4 or 5 years. You agree with that scenario? You agree with TK?
Infamy is on the table here. It's on the table. And I don't know what's going to happen with Luka, but there's a chance he could spend the next decade pounding the Mavericks. He's in LA. One of the reasons this is not a terrible trade for Luka, he's miserable. It cost him some money, and miserable in the moment. He did get sent to the Lakers. A lot of players dream and try to force their way to the Lakers. It's not the end of the world. But I will say this. Anthony Davis is playing some of the best basketball in his career. He was awesome last season. He's been awesome this season. He is the rare double who's an all-NBA player and an all-defensive team player. That is incredibly valuable, and he is in his prime. I know he's older than Luka, and we're comparing that. He is in his prime. He is under contract, and he is a vital player to have on a championship contender. What I don't know if he is a guy who can change the course of a playoff series. I've seen it with Luka. These are the most powerful players in the league. If you got a guy who can take a team that's lesser than and rise them over the top in a playoff series, that is a superstar. I'm not sure that's Anthony Davis. He could prove me wrong, but I've seen Luka do it multiple times, and that's what the Mavericks traded away.
We will get you out of here on this. Are there any other trades on the horizon that we need to be cognizant of?
Oh, boy. I have compared this Luka trade to what happened in college conference realignment several times, where one team, Nebraska, decides to go to the Big Ten, and next thing you know, the Pac-12 doesn't exist. That is potentially what's happening here. Not just because it's seismic, but because the nature of the trades in the league right now all have to be 3, 4, 5 team trades. And so there is a lot of rumbles. There's a lot of movement in the force. How much is actually going to go through, I'm not sure. Keep a very close eye on the Warriors. Keep a very close eye on the Suns. Last night, Draymond Green gave a very interesting interview after that game, which the Warriors won, by the way. He believes that ownership, Joe Lacob, is unhappy, and he's basically saying anything is possible. And so the Warriors, be very, 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 very pay attention to the Warriors, very, very close attention to the Suns, and what happens with the star players on those rosters.
Ooh, fun.
Thank you, Brian.
Fun.
Always a treat to have you.
Potentially.
Thanks,
Brian.
guys.
Tony, I years and years ago got to cover enough of Tiger Woods live and in color at the tournaments to see his mom sort of following him. And she'd be in the gallery, and you could chat with her a little bit, and it was really sort of exciting. And Tiger always talked about what it is he got from his mom, and to hear that was always impressive.
Let's go to the big finish if we could.
Let's do it.
Celtics at Cavs tonight. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, the Celtics trail the Cavaliers by 5.5, Tone. We're getting late in the season. Big deal game. The NHL suspended Ryan Hartman of the Wild 10 games for shoving Tim Stützle's head to the ice. Does that make sense to you?
It's a vicious hit, and this guy gets suspended every third day,
He
it
does.
seems. He's always
It was
out.
vicious.
Trae Young stepped over Malik Beasley after hitting a game winner last night. Okay by you?
Well, he was sort of in the way, and he had to go somewhere, but that's what he does between the ice and the veins and the whole thing. The Wizards won again, beating Charlotte. Bandwagon for you?
Don't get carried away. Charlotte is not exactly Oklahoma City, but good win. Good win. Last one, men's college hoops tonight. Number 11, Marquette at number 12, St. John's. Who you got?
That's kind of cool to see those two schools playing a big game as we get into February, Tone. I got the clicker, and I'm going to stay with that game for a little while anyway.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. Nephew Jonathan, happy birthday.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now, your sports.